sorry. I'm sorry. So let's start once more. My name is Karolina. I'm calling from Poland, Central Europe. I am member of XR local group, Global Support and Empathy Team. And I pass to Nicole once more.
Hi, thanks. I'm Nicole Hartley-Bradford from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm part of XR here, especially the Regenerative Culture team. And I also do something called Awakening the Village. That's my life's work in regenerative culture. And I pass it to Guy.
You are muted, Guy.
Yeah, okay. My name's Guy Gladstone. I'm the external coordinator for our local regen group in Lewis on the south coast of the UK. And I'm really excited about this very international Zoom meeting. And, yeah, I pass. I'm ready.
Whom do you pass on?
To Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm in Western Nebraska in the United States. This is my first ever Empathy Circle. I'm not affiliated with Extinction Rebellion, though I deeply respect what y'all are doing. I was invited because I run the Good Grief Network, which does a lot of empathizing and sitting together for 10-week sessions, and they thought I might be interested in this process. So I'm here to learn and connect. Grateful to be here. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Jane.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm in the UK, in the southwest Bridport. I'm not affiliated to XR. I have been involved in a few of the XR things here locally. I'm very interested. I was invited by Fran, who's in another group. I haven't got very long, I have to say, so I might, if you don't mind, I'll dip out at some point. Is that okay? Or do you want me to stop now? I don't know. It's up to you. I'll unmute.
Thank you. So the first round, we will try to model the process. I have to explain that I show my telephone to indicate that time is ended. But it doesn't mean we have to stop speaking in the middle of the sentence. We end our thought, what we wanted to say, and the active listener is reflecting that back. It's just the information that time is up, but we're still talking. So not feel stressed by this signal. It is just the indication. And we will try to model the process. I will be first active listener, and I would like to ask somebody, one of you, to be first speaker, so I can model active listening, show how we do that. Who would like to be first active listener? Who would like to be first speaker? Okay, Nicole.
Thank you. I'm feeling really excited to be here, to see names of people that I've seen in other places through my connection with XR. Also to be just seeing the evidence of this resurgence or a surgence in interest and willingness to participate in all of the facets of regenerative culture, from the internal self pieces to the global pieces. And
Can I reflect that?
Yeah, thanks.
So you are excited by being here and seeing many participants, people you recognize from other meetings who are important to XR, and you also noticing that this meeting is somehow sort of proof to you that the interest in regenerative cultures is growing, and in many facets of this idea we develop different approaches. It grows.
Yeah. And something else that's alive for me right now is that I'm noticing how also I'm also feeling some like frustration and confusion generally in my life as I see so many people engaging in argument, and including myself sometimes. I sometimes get sucked into, not listening empathetically. And so I'm so grateful that there are so many more opportunities for me now to be part of groups, to practice what I teach and what I preach, and often fail to do.
So you're noticing that many of us easily get involved in conflicts, arguments, and including yourself, and you're noticing that one of the reason is kind of lack of empathetic listening, and you appreciate the fact that now there is so many opportunities to practice empathic listening and develop those skills, those personal skills. You think it's important?
I do. And I've noticed that in some of my closest relationships, I know in my mind that what I need when I have things to express is I need empathetic listening and just to be reflected back to myself. And I notice how it helps me kind of grow my awareness of my space and my field into this more visceral presence. And it's been heartbreaking a few times to have asked for and laid out the steps of empathetic listening and said, please, will you do this for me? I know I need it. And to have the person come back with, well, I don't think you do need that, and I'm going to do something else. And it's just been so hard.
So if I understand you correctly, you very often have this need to being listened to and being heard, and it's very difficult for you when people need to ask for such a thing. It should be more natural, but sometimes we are in a situation when we have to literally ask for listen and for reflecting what we are saying, to do that. And you appreciate the situation when it's kind of obvious. That's what you meant?
Yeah. I can really appreciate that this way of listening um, is so often not what people are used to and not what people have experienced. And I have so much compassionate for the times when we slip into like arguing or defending or colluding or all the things that aren't empathy. And yet when I need just to be heard and to have my thoughts and my feelings just appreciated and reflected back to me, it those are my moments, thank you, when I start to worry about us.
Mm-hmm. So you're noticing that very often people don't know how to communicate well, and they respond, they question, they respond with many different ways, but they are not able, they don't know how to simply reflect back, to let person who share some thoughts or feelings to feel heard. And people very often don't know how to do that. And but it is so crucial, a key element of good communication and being together for you. And you feel like this is the most important element of our culture, something that's missing very often in our relations.
Thank you. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wasn't easy for me. Thank you. So I show my telephone, but obviously we continue it until you ended your thought and I reflected back. So now it's my turn. I become speaker and I'm choosing another active listener. And maybe I will choose Guy. Guy, would you listen to me, please?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
And please go ahead.
Okay, I will start my time. Mm. Yes, I'm doing empathy circle. Seems to me for so long that I don't notice that it's actually something unusual for many people. I I'm so deeply in this practice that I stop realizing that many people never did such thing. I stopped there.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing this practice of the empathy circle for so long that you forget how unfamiliar with this or unable to even do this so many people are.
Mhm. And it wasn't that long ago, but still I feel like it was years ago. I'm practicing it maybe year and a half, maybe 2 years. Yeah, but I feel like I'm very, very deep in this practice, and it's good to realize that, oh gosh, a lot of people never did that. A lot of people don't know how it is. So it's good to realize that. Thank you for that realization.
So you've just added that how good it is for you to realize, despite having been in this for a year and a half, in this practice, how many people just don't get it.
And I think it's one of the regenerative practices to just listen without judgment, listen to the other person without any judgment, advice, and giving the other person space to be heard. It's regenerative. That's how I experienced that, and that's how many people who do that first time feel about it.
So I hear you affirming this practice as regenerative, and that this has it's been good for you, and you notice it's good for others to engage in the active listening and empathy circle.
Yeah. And I'm trying to connect to our topic, today's topic. Um, my experience is that such an empathy circle helps to build community. That's my experience. I don't know if it will work the same way for other people, but very often after the circle with people whom I don't know, I meet first time, like here, I feel kind of community. We barely know each other, but somehow we know each other. That's the feeling I'm going out from the meeting very often.
So another part of your experience of the empathy circle is that it's a community building experience. Even though I don't know the other people or have had very little contact with them before, that I emerge from my experience of an empathy circle feeling I'm part of a community.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard. So as you see, I ended before my time is up. I still have few seconds, but I decided to stop in this moment. And you can do that if you feel you are completed. So now it's your turn, Guy. You become speaker and you're choosing another active listener.
Okay. Well, I will ask Jane, as you're also in the UK, if you would you be my active listener?
You are muted, Jane.
You need to unmute yourself.
Yes. So
You're okay to be there for that role. Okay, thank you. Yes, well, I am very interested in regenerative culture, coming from a place of perceiving how now for several years how damaged the cultural fabric in so much of Britain is, how damaged it is. And I link that damage particularly to the last 30 years of neoliberalism and what I refer to as the privatization of the psyche itself, not just the privatization of industries and other aspects of our society, but that people are actually have been trained to only think of themselves as individuals, not as part of a community, and that this is a new kind of brainwash. Yes.
Okay. All right, Guy. So you're very interested in the regenerative culture, and particularly in the UK, over the last 30 years, we're talking about the privatisation of the person, and we become individuals rather than thinking about the community, and we are a community. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yes, yes, it is. And I would just add that I have to include myself in that awful realization of that I've been privatized, and I'm in joining Extinction Rebellion from the moment that I saw it on the news report in November 2018 of the occupation of the 5 bridges in London. I thought, this is it! What I've been waiting for. And that was that kind of level of activity and around the planetary emergency. It just fired me up, and I became a member locally in Lewis, or played a part in creating the local group, which is already just beginning. Yeah.
So Guy, you're really fired up, it's like an explosion of realization that this is something that you can really feel and are involved in, and you've created the group in Lewis, from seeing the first Extinction Rebellion, and the taking of the 5 bridges, and it's just inspired you.
Yes, that's right. And in joining my local group, I've been having that experience of being in a community, and it's has been becoming real over, particularly over the last year, and taking part in the big actions in April and October in central London. There's only one part of that. It's the regular meetings with my local community have come to mean a lot. I simply haven't had that experience before. Yeah.
So being a part of the local group and taking part in action has helped you to feel part of the community, your regular meetings with the community has helped you to feel part of that, which you haven't had before? Yeah.
Yeah. And I would add to that I've been practicing as a psychotherapist, particularly a group psychotherapist, for over 30 years. And I went through a process of radicalization about 5 years ago. No, longer than that now, nearly 10 years ago, and started to drift away from the mainstream of the psychotherapy profession in Britain, that too many of whom wanted to be regulated by the state. Thank you. And just to say that I felt that I became part of a small community within that opposition, but I've moved even further away through my connection with Extinction Rebellion, which has become my new community. Yeah. Thank you.
So you've been practicing as a psychotherapist for 30 years, but the last 10 years you've moving away from the mainstream. Again, you talk about that privatization and of that, but now you have a smaller community that you're involved with. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Oh, good.
Jane, now you are become speaker, and you choosing your active listener. Whom you choosing?
Okay. Well, Laura, will you listen to me?
I will.
Lovely. Okay. Yeah, this is great. Actually, this is great because my background is varied, but I did actually, and you may know about this guy, I did train as a community organizer because I've got a great feeling about how important community is. So I got involved in that organisation, and there's a lot of training, and a lot of that was active listening, and going and knocking on doors and listening to people, and it was amazing how freeing that was for a lot of the people that I met, because it doesn't happen very often. You don't actually get listened to very often, and it's important.
What I hear, Jane, is that you have been trained, I think you said, as a community organizer, a component of which was active listening. And it sounds like you were a little bit surprised by the active listening component and how little we actually listen to each other.
Yeah, that's right. And I work in a community, which is essentially a very unique place, but it's Christian, loosely Christian members, but they have guests who are recovering alcoholics, recovering from all sorts, and they have homeless people who come every weekend, and it's a freely open place, and it's somewhere where people do talk on an emotional level, is very and they're very connected. So it's quite empowering to actually work in a place like that. But that is the sort of model that I could see, which is this active listening communication model that is needed for the future. It really is.
What I hear is that you work in a really unique community that's loosely Christian affiliated, but seems to have an open door policy, and the types of dialogue that's happening seems real, and you can go a little bit deeper than maybe some of your other communication in other aspects of your life. And I think what I heard is that you see that modeled here as well, maybe? I'm new to this.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't mean I don't have it in the rest of my life, because I feel like I do. But I'm just saying it's that model is actually quite. It feels very unique, and that is the model that I think that you or we are putting together here. Yeah.
The model of empathetic listening is unique, and that's been displayed here and in the unique community in which you work.
Something like that.
Sorry about the dog.
Okay, I've finished. Thank you.
Okay, so if Jane is completed, as I understand. Jane, are you complete? Yeah. So now, Laura, your turn. You become speaker, and you're choosing your listener.
Nicole, will you listen for me? All right, thank you. I think I'm really grateful for the space and for the invitation to listen to each other. And I do this a lot. We do it a little differently in my Good Grief network. The parroting back what somebody says is an interesting twist. And I realize that I do tend to actively listen to all of you. It's just the giving it back. It tends to be a skill I need some practice with. I am deeply interested in regenerative cultures, and I'll pause because I've talked a lot so far. I'll pause.
Thank you. What I think I heard you say is that this experience here is very much like what you do in your Good Grief circles, and except that maybe what's being added here is the saying back what you've heard, yeah, that sounds like it's a bit of a new experience for you.
Yeah, thank you. I've been a lifelong activist, and by lifelong I mean for the last decade. But when Extinction Rebellion came to really be a thing that people could join, I had moved to a really rural community, and there are no Extinction Rebellion places near me, and it's pretty conservative. So my guess is if I tried to start one, we wouldn't have much success with it. So I think my energy is better spent, one, either traveling far away to participate in one that is 3 hours away, or continuing to just practice hearing people and cultivating healing in a digital space.
Wow, I heard you say that that you really resonate with Extinction Rebellion, and that you consider yourself an activist, a lifelong activist, even if lifelong kind of sort of means the last 10 years. And I heard you say that right now you live in a rural area and it's quite conservative around you. So it sounds like when you consider where you might kind of get active, unless you were to travel to participate in direct action, that maybe for now your way of embodying and practicing direct action is to do deep listening, maybe online with like-minded people.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so now we start the next round. You can choose whoever you want, Nicole, to kind of variate, change the circle. You can choose whoever you wish to speak to.
I see Jane has her hand up.
You are muted, Jane.
Sorry. Do you mind if I bow out now? It's not that I don't want to, but it's just that I need to do something
Okay.
else. But thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
And
Hi, Jane.
carry on with it.
Guy.
That gives me the opening to say that I'd understood for some reason that it was an hour and a half from 6 to 7:30, and my partner's expecting me to sit down to eat at 7:30. So I'll bow out at 7:30 if that's all right with the group.
Okay, we have no choice somehow. We actually usually do that for 2 hours, full hours.
Mm.
Okay, coming back to you, Nicole, whom are you choosing?
I'd like to ask Guy to listen, make the most of his time here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. I noticed that my mind and my body and my whole like experience of myself is feeling more open and more at ease and more optimistic just from getting to be in this kind of shared experience of expressed empathy. Yeah.
I noticed that just through you're telling us, just through being in this shared space, that you're relaxing and feeling more open.
Yeah, and also feeling so much more optimism and hope. I mean, I've often been thinking of myself as kind of having to move beyond hope because things seem so hopeless. But I can't help but feel hope right now. And also when I think about the people with whom I'm having relationships, I feel like I have so much more room in me now to actively listen to them rather than to protect myself from how they're occurring to me as closed and argumentative and defensive.
So whereas you find yourself feeling a certain amount of hopelessness in general, and you notice that you are through this experience, your hope returns to you, and so despite these experiences of people's argumentativeness, etc., you are able now to engage more with people.
Yeah, I really think I will be. I've been sheltering in place here in a community house that I founded about 4.5 years ago, and I've felt so disappointed that we haven't been able to maintain a sense of unity and a shared reality, while people's fears about COVID and about the economy, I think, have amped up. People have really kind of isolated into their own little shells, or in one case, a two-person shell. So I feel hope now that maybe I can come out into the house and be more open and be more interested in hearing people.
I hear that you've been quite active in initiating in forming a household, and that you were that you had hoped for more from the others, but had found that you and they had rather retreated into their shells. But through this practice of active listening and empathy circles, you begin to feel more hopeful that you can turn this around.
Yeah, very much so. I'm so grateful. I mean, I've only just met the 3 and 4 of us here today, and yet I feel more held and more allowed to be who and what I am than I tend to feel in the presence of so many of the people in my lives who, claim to love me. And I'm sure they do. They just don't have this skill. And I've been resentful and angry about that.
Yeah. Hmm. It sounds as though it's really important for you to be able to declare that resentment and anger that you'd, in view of the fact you'd hoped for so much more from the people you brought into a community or a household with you. I wasn't sure if it was just that particular household or beyond that, but this practice makes all the difference for you, despite that.
It does. I would even go as far to say that I feel resentment and anger towards my family that I was born into, towards the kids I went to school with, and the teachers and the coaches and the church leaders. For just so many times when this is all I needed, and yet it was so hard and they couldn't do it. And yeah, getting it is so good.
It sounds as though getting this experience of being actively listened to has been such a gift in view of the background of deficit and unsatisfaction, starting in your family and school and coaches you mentioned, and in fact there's been a whole succession of people in a way who've failed you, but perhaps you've now found the kind of community, albeit online, that makes a difference for you.
Thank you. I feel deliciously heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guy, your turn. Whom you're speaking to?
Well, I'll be speaking to Laura. Is it Laura or Laura?
Laura.
Laura, I'll be speaking to you, Laura.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you. I have to say this is I've been participating in during this is my sort of Easter break as a therapist for 3 weeks, and I've been taking advantage of the lockdown and to try to acquaint myself with the experience of being online in meetings, and I felt very ambivalent about it, and really struggled with it. But this is the first time I feel I've escaped from a kind of silo experience, boxed into these little squares in a kind of strange kind of gallery. It's the first time and it must be something to do with feeling live active listening is happening. It's the first time I've escaped from that silo. Thank you.
What I hear from Guy is that he's been on a several-week break and maybe a bit isolated, and felt some ambivalence about turning the isolation towards the computer or the digital realm. And this is the first time in this Zoom session that he feels, he used the word escaped, that he's escaped. I'm interested by that word. I was going to put a different word there, but I'm too interested in to know what that means.
Well, I'll respond to that. I think it's part of a wider ambivalence about, I know it's of necessity currently because of lockdown, but a wider ambivalence about life moving increasingly online, and with an increasing loss of face-to-face connection and contact, which is what I've always valued. I'm 74, and it's frankly this transition to online life for me is pretty weird. So I am looking for a way out or through it, or getting into it just enough to get the benefit from it, but not as other people are, I'm worried that after the lockdown is lifted, there'll be considerable societal pressure to maintain this kind of remoteness. I hope that explains my feeling of something to do with escape. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is that we have been on lockdown for a while, and there was already sort of a tendency to move many things online, to which you were feeling a bit apprehensive about. But now, because of the lockdown, you're having to go online, whether you like it or not, and that you're 74 years old, and so having to maybe lose a bit of the face-to-face interaction which you value seemed maybe, I'm hesitant to put words in your, maybe scary. I want to use the word scary, but I don't know that isolating. You didn't want to lose the face-to-face connection, and I think that you were worried about that with the online realm. And from what I hear, there's a bit of worry as well after the lockdown and after we're able to see each other again in person, that maybe many of these platforms will continue to be online, which doesn't seem overall like where you get most of your meaning and connection from.
Yeah. It prompts me to say that the international aspect of this, I recognize it's only possible. I can't teleport myself over to Calgary or that's somewhere in the backwoods of the United States that you are, Laura, or to Poland. I can't teleport myself there. So this is the next best for the international connection. And there's something very heartening about being able to, so I am appreciative of Zoom, but got something to do with how international this particular Zoom is, or the particular group I found myself in. And you notice that I turned to the other Englander while she was in the group, because I thought, well, I need someone in the same country as me, but
Sorry about that. I pushed a button and it navigated away. From Guy, what I hear from you is that you have been historically hesitant to engage in some of these digital platforms, but you're very impressed by the fact that many of us can come together from different parts of the world and share some space, and that your instinct or your initial reaction was to find someone in your country to connect with. And my dogs keep barking, so it's a bit distracting. Yeah, I mean, I hear from you that this has been a kind of an exciting experiment for you. That's what I hear.
Thank you. I feel really heard.
Thank you, Guy. Carol, will you listen for me?
Yes, I will listen to you.
Thank you. I don't even know what to say. This is such an interesting format. I'm struggling with how to paraphrase things back to people, because I don't want to be presumptuous and put language in my language, my perceived language, into what someone has said. So I'm trying to be very careful with that while also listening. I also have some memory issues. My memory isn't great, so I'm trying to store tidbits of information. But I think the more important point is that the practice is to be heard and to listen, to practice listening, and to maybe see that in our normal lives, in our real lives, we don't listen maybe that well.
So in first moment, you wasn't sure what to speak about, and you are a little bit in kind of, you are impressed by this practice, you struggling a little bit with the process of reflecting because your own habits, you try to not interfere in a process of reflection, not add your own perceiving, just be reflective, and you're a little bit struggling with that, but you also noticing that probably we really don't listen to each other in normal life too much. That's your kind of impression.
Yeah, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is how this is happening in the United States. I'm not sure if it's happening elsewhere, but because we have Trump as a president who is not leading well at all, not even leading, it's almost as if he's trying to incite a civil war between the conservatives and the liberals. And he is like, people are not wanting to stay inside anymore and saying that it's constitutional right to leave their houses and infect other people. And so there are cities around the United States that people are coming out and rioting together. And then Trump is tweeting that that's okay and they should keep doing that. And I'm trying not to get bogged down in the insanity of that. I'm trying to realize that what I have control over is a very small little, I'm in control of my reactions and where I show up and how I invest my energy, and I can't even bring that insanity in.
So you are not sure if something similar happens in other countries, but in UK, in the USA where you are, there is a problem of a president who actually behave like he's opening a war, a civil war inside the country, and there are some rallies. People go out, don't respect the law to stay at home, the lockdown, and they go to rallies and protest, and Trump is encouraging such a behavior. So the government, different powers in country send the different messages, and it creates a conflict, and you feel overwhelmed by that, and you realize that this is something out of your control. You have no influence, and you think you should focus on something, on your small piece of reality you can influence. That's what you want to try, but it's difficult for you.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you, Carol.
Okay, thank you. So I will ask Nicole. Nicole, would you listen to me?
Yes, indeed.
A lot of interesting ideas. Mm, I would like to say that we are part of the culture we want to change. And this neoliberal culture is in us, in our habits, in our relations with other people. And that's the problem. We need to start with ourselves somehow, start to build from ourselves, which is difficult because we very often feel oppressed by others. But it's still kind of how to start with myself and spread beyond myself this practice and start to change this culture. That's my feeling.
I hear you. I hear you. It sounds like you're noticing how true it is that we are each what a culture becomes by really seeing to ourselves, and by by being the change that we want to see around us. And I hear you acknowledging that it's hard because we have been acted upon in ways that we didn't like, and we've taken on that. But I hear you saying that, you know, we really can take it back, and we can really be what we're here to be.
I spent some dozen years trying to change my path, my personal path I live. And I think I a little bit succeed, but still have a lot ahead of me. And I'm realizing that right now I'm trying to build a community in my local group. I'm trying to bring different relations between us, start to build something that make us a community. We will stop being just group of activists, and we will become a real community of activists, people who support each other, who know each other, not only as activists, but also as people.
I hear you saying that you've been trying to bring about change in your life for dozens of years, and that it sounds like you're appreciating that you've had some success, and it sounds like you're also appreciating that there's further to go, and you're really interested, I hear you saying, in kind of the transformation of your group of activist friends into a real community of people who know each other and who embody community.
Yeah, because my understanding of our situation is that we don't have, as Laura said, we don't have much control over everything that is happening in our country, in the whole world, but we can still build community in which we want to be, whatever will happen. That's my goal. Let's start to build community I want to be in when whatever will gonna happen.
Yeah, I hear you saying that you really want to be in community, and that maybe that's really the only way to have the kind of life experience that you really want to have, seeing as how you can't control beyond a certain point, and you're really interested in that.
I think that now with COVID-19 or whatever it will be, a COVID-19 crisis or climate crisis, which might look quite similar with social, economic consequences. It might be very similar crisis. I want to be among people with whom I share my values, my principles, and that's what XR gives me. Some set of principles, values we all share together and we feel comfortable with and we want to cultivate, and that's the foundation of the culture we can build among us.
Yeah, it sounds like you really see the XR principles as a foundation for a new culture, and for a culture that you want to create with other like-minded people who really share those deep values that you see reflected in the XR principles.
Yeah, because we feel good with ourselves together. We feel good. Yeah.
Feels
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Your turn, Nicole.
that was quick. I'm going to ask Laura to listen to me, please.
Grateful to.
Thank you. I keep having these thoughts recurring in my mind, you know, if not me, who, if not now, when? And I'm excited. After this call, I'm going to be on a call with a group from Edmonton, north of me, people who are looking toward putting a co-op together and buying some land. And I think they get it. You know, I think they get what it really takes. I'm not sure if they really get what it really takes. But I feel a lot more confident in my ability to say, hey, this is what I think it really takes. And just put that into the group.
What I hear is that you're almost creating a mantra of not me, who, and if not now, when. And this applies to the question of maybe creating a co-op in a community, I think you said north of you. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Thank you. Yeah, and I feel excited because I'm part of quite a number of groups. I mean, that's what Awakening the Village has been about. And often people come because they want to move on to land and have community. And often I'm saying, okay, you also need to start inside yourself. And some people have kind of taken that and kind of gone away with it, being like, oh, she said I need to start inside myself, but what I really want to do is grow food. So I think that people being isolated now because of COVID-19 are realizing that they do need to start with themselves, and even if they don't, they have to, because that's who they've got right now.
What I hear is that you're in a number of groups and that maybe there was some resistance from other people to turn inward and kind of do some inner work. But now, since we're all stuck inside and isolated, we're all being forced to do that kind of work.
Yeah. And I think maybe more of the people who have been doing that work, for whatever reasons, whether it's been, you know, a culmination of losses or adverse experiences that they've had to face, I think some of those people are saying, wow, I've done a lot of work, and now I want to go grow food because this whole system looks like it might be collapsing, and this just makes real sense to me. And I'm just like, let me help you. I've been working on this.
It sounds like there are some people who have been preparing and doing some inner work, and maybe those people are ready to turn that work external. And one example is growing food. And you sound really excited, like you can help in a lot of aspects of the current predicaments we're facing. And you sound really excited by that.
I am, and especially right now, because so often in this leadership role, where a lot of my life was spent in the inner part, and then I would go out and I would take opportunities to share with people and connect them and introduce them to each other and help them, like direct them to permaculture and direct them to local farmers, and yet I wasn't really getting that connection, the part where I needed to also be supported in my internal world as I supported them in their external world and in their internal world. And so I really feel like the gift of this isolation for me has been that it's forced me again to look into the wider global community and find the people who can support me in my inner world.
What I'm hearing is that you've been doing both the inner work and the exterior work for some time, and that you're realizing that both aspects of these types of work need support, and that maybe you haven't found a lot of support for that internal work. And so the larger community, the larger global community, you've been able to find some of that support and for your internal work. And I thought it was really cool when you were talking about how you've been able to support people in their external work. What I'm hearing is the need for support, and also the fact that you have been supporting people in different ways.
Yeah, thank you. I feel so heard. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Guy, I know you have dinner waiting for you. Do you have time?
You are muted, Guy. We don't hear you.
Mute. Yeah. No, I'm here now. It takes a bit of a to have to click a mouse to make myself present is weird, but I'm getting there. Now, I just want to say again how grateful I am for having participated in this empathy circle. I'm really quite sorry to be leaving it, actually, but it's also important for me, picking up on what Nicole is saying, my inner work, particularly in this lockdown time, with my partner in the house, includes keeping my agreements with her. And, so one of that's one right now, an agreement that I because especially because yesterday I completely blew it with another Zoom that completely overran, and had a very interruptive, unactive listening person on it. And I was kind of paralyzed, just sitting listening and thinking, God, the facilitator she's being very tolerant of this. Maybe I should just keep quiet and not accept that she's got all these questions, even when.
Okay.
So I just want to say that this has really been a good experience, very restorative for me, particularly because of the aforementioned not so good experience yesterday. It's been really good, and I'm really sorry to be pressing the leave button from this. And it's also the first breakout room I've had, incidentally, on this. So that's another a new technical experience. Anyway, thank you, all three of you, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoy your dinner.
Yeah, thank you. Leave? No. Oh, return.
Okay, Laura, your turn.
Carol, will you listen for me?
Okay, I will listen to you.
I'm struck by the need for all of us to be doing something similar to this, whether it's through XR or Good Grief or any other avenue that has us connecting, and seeing that there are really good people in the world who care and want to be connecting in this time. I think it's absolutely essential.
So you feel impressed, you said struck by the fact that we are in different places, willing to do quite the same thing, different way, but it's still the same thing. And it means something to you. It's significant.
My next question, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
My next question is, how do we get more people doing it? And I think sometimes that might be my ego trying to push too hard. But I think this is the new way of activism. And I honestly think that if we are going to change the systems that are so dysfunctional, that we have to go inward, and we have to feel our feelings, and we have to learn how to show up for each other and then turn our work external. Because if we don't do that inner work, any types of change, I think, will just perpetuate the same problems we keep fighting against or we keep confronting. And so I see such a need at this time to go inward and then learn how to connect and listen to each other and be so absolutely compassionate.
So for you, next question is how to make this happening, make this happen, and you really um, you think that the going doing an inward process is very important, and then to go to other people and trying to build connection. That's the process we have to do, if I understand you correctly. And I'm afraid I might miss something in your saying. Would you help me?
Yeah. So I think part of our inner work is this relating to each other and listening to each other. I think inner work is also feeling our feelings and sitting with maybe our despair and our hopelessness. And I think until we do those things, when we show up to activist things or try to fight against the really dysfunctional systems, I think unless we do that inner work, the feeling our feelings and relating to people, that we're going to keep perpetuating our systemic issues.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah. So you think that this inner work we have to do, work through our feelings, our what we experience, our emotions, feelings, and our relations with other people, relations to other people, and then we actually can change the world, because the problem is that if we don't do this inner work, we actually will be sort of multiplying, perpetuating the system we live in. So we have to do first this inner work in us, and then we will be able to change anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel really strongly about that. I think that it goes back to maybe what Guy was saying about this neoliberal ideology that many of us are living in, the idea that our agency has been taken away from us, that we've been told our only agency is through buying things. And I think that's bullshit. And I don't know if we're allowed to swear. I didn't see a rule about swearing, but I think it's false. And I think it's not helpful to live under the assumption that we don't have agency. And so this inner work that I have been talking about and that many of us have been talking about is an invitation to rethink what it means to be a human in this time and place. And with that comes relating to others and seeing the beautifulness or the beauty that is in other people. And these calls remind me that there are so many of us around the world that want to be connected and want to change things.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing you saying, that we have to kind of rebuild and revive our agency, because we live in a system, in a cultural paradigm. You said about neoliberal paradigm, that kind of tells us we don't have agency, or we can express our agency only through buying things. And you believe it's not true. You said it's bullshit. and and you think that doing this inert work, we can kind of revive our agency, to discover that we are actually human, and we have humans, and we have a lot of values we share with others, and we can rebuild different paradigm, different model, different pattern, cultural pattern.
I feel very heard. Thank you.
Thank you. It wasn't easy for me. I have those moments when it's very difficult for me to understand, but I'm trying.
You did
Okay.
great.
Thank you. Nicole, would you listen to me? I don't know how much time we have now. I hope we still can talk. Um, okay. Mm, to explaining empathy circle, we have rule that everybody can say whatever they want to say. It might be even offensive. It might be something that active listener might not accept, but reflecting is not agreeing. It's just reflecting what somebody says, and we allow to say whatever anybody wants to say, as long as this person is ready to be good active listener. So the mutuality is crucial.
I hear you saying that the way that empathy circles work is that people are allowed to say whatever they really have to say, and that the rule is that the person will reflect it back, and they just need to be actively listening and reflecting. They don't need to agree. They don't need to like what they hear. They just are to reflect it.
And the second part of it is that whatever we say, then we have to be prepared to actively listen the other person. That's the thing. I can say whatever I want, but I have to be mutual in active listening. That's very important part of this process.
Yeah. So whatever I say, I also need to be ready to hear what other people might have to say, maybe even about what I said.
Yeah.
And listen actively.
Yeah. And the other thing is sometimes participants discuss with each other sort of indirectly. So now I can, for example, discuss something with Laura, speaking to you, Nicole. And I'm still discussing something with Laura, but I'm talking to you. So it's kind of indirect discussion.
Right. So I'm hearing you describe what happens is that some indirect discussions end up happening where someone's putting their ideas and their opinions maybe into the air, into the space, but not directly toward the person who prompted what they're saying.
Yeah. And another thing is that we might ask questions, but those questions might stay unanswered, because in this structure, we are not hit with the questions. We might not answer, it's our choice. And that's the element of giving space, choice to every participant. You may answer my question or not if you don't wish to do that. That's very important. I see it as a very important element of respect and giving space to every participant, and leaving every participant choice what they do with what they hear.
I hear you describing also how in this format, in this way of being together, that sometimes questions are asked and they become, when they're asked, they kind of become anybody's question to answer or not. And again, this makes room for, I'm hearing you talk about possibilities are free to emerge.
Well, the important thing is that if we have direct discussion, forward, backward, I ask question and you feel kind of obligated to react to my question. In that format, we don't have to do that. If we feel uncomfortable with question, if we feel attacked with the question, if we feel we are not ready to respond to this question, we just may talk whatever we want to talk. We don't have to answer the question. That gives, I feel like it gives kind of emotional space to everyone, and right to choose what I want to say and still being heard.
Yeah, I hear you describing this beautiful way of creating choice and freedom. and making it possible for people to express whatever is truly authentic to them and be heard.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Karolina, will you listen to me?
Okay, I will listen to you.
I notice I feel a bit awkward about sending it around the other way, and yet I also appreciate that creates some variety and hopefully some more space.
So you feel a little bit nervous, kind of unease with the changing the direction of the circle, but you also appreciate the freedom of this choice and possibility of this choice.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I've been definitely pondering myself the question of like what to do to influence others in beneficial ways, to nurture and facilitate and support more of the kinds of conversations that will help regenerative culture spread and deepen.
So you're thinking a lot how to act, what to do to spread some practices in talking, facilitation, how to spread some activities to help actually to regenerative cultures to develop. How to do that?
Yeah. And I really noticed that the inner work, outer work pieces really do need to be connected, so that maybe I'm not doing outer work without still doing inner work, and I'm not doing inner work maybe without doing outer work. Yeah, I'm just really noticing too how this space that we've created with this choice and safety really does fertilize my mind and give rise to more possibilities.
So you're noticing that probably there is interdependence with the inner work and outer work we do. We can't just say this is inner work I do, then I will do outer work. No, it's kind of connected and it's not clear when we do what actually we do. Maybe the doing outer work, we do our inner work and vice versa. It's not clear for you. But what you also noticing, this talk kind of open a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts that comes to you, and you feel like it's very fruitful for you. You see a lot of different associations and you are curious how it develops.
Yeah, I really am. Yeah, that's all for me for now. Thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you. Laura, would you listen to me?
I sure will.
Okay. I'm still thinking about what regenerative cultures means, because we talk a lot about, we actually talk about relationship, how we build relations between people, between us, how we build community, how when we feel good in a group of people. But lately I had some meetings, online meetings with people from Global South, and what strike me is that for them regenerative culture might be sometimes very simple. It's a need for some, I would say, material safety. We don't experience that this unsafety they experience. We have problem with our healthcare system, we have problem with our social care system, but still we are more or less safe. They don't have it at all. And for example, right now in this COVID-19 crisis, they are just left without any help. There's very often no running water. They are losing their jobs, and there is no food to feed their families. So for them, regenerative cultures probably means something completely different than for us.
What I'm hearing is the question of what does a regenerative culture mean, and that there's a difference between the global south and many of us who are in the global north on this call. And for us, a regenerative culture seems to be how we can connect and how we can be seen and how we can feel good together.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's a big problem with many people not having their basic needs met, and in the global south, some people don't have water, some people don't have access to food, and with people losing their jobs, it probably makes it harder for them to access their basic needs or have their basic needs met.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hear a tension in what it means to have a regenerative culture, and that where we're positioned in the globe makes a big difference about how we're having these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I have few friends in Africa, India, or Latin America, and they actually teach people about coronavirus and disease it may cause, about hygienics, washing their hands. They do such simple things because that's the need that is there somewhere in a slums or favelas or places where we have crowded poverty, so to speak. And I think it's also regenerative culture because that's what helped those mm, societies, those community to survive. How to make soap.
I hear that you have some friends in India and Africa and Latin America, and some of the main questions they're asking is about basic hygiene, hand washing and soap, and that these are really real and very practical things that can help save lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that too should not be passed over as an aspect of regenerative culture.
Yeah.
What I hear and is the idea that sometimes maybe we think they're simple or that we can bypass those very important conversations, but as we're seeing right now with coronavirus, it's essential that we have those skills and bring them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I feel heard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My time is up.
Thank you. I don't know that I have anything else to say.
You can say whatever you wish. You may
Okay.
change the topic if you wish.
Huh. So much power. Nicole, will you listen for me or to me?
Certainly.
Okay. An aspect that we bring to the table with Good Grief is the idea that we have to face our own mortality, and we have to face the mortality of everything. And what's been present for me in my last few phone calls with friends and with other good grievers is that even if we can't make it through this paradigm shift or this cultural shift, economic shift, political shift, just shift in general, that many of us still want to be doing this work because that's where the meaning is made. And at the end of the day or the end of our life, sorry about the dogs, that we're gonna die anyway. And so while we're alive, it gets back to this question of agency and where meaning is made, and how it seems to be the most valuable thing for me to be doing with my time is to be doing this kind of work. And that includes the emotional work, the sort of activism work on the outside, on the external world.
I hear you apologizing for your noisy dog. I also hear you referring to the work of Good Grief and Good Grievers and how important it is to bring meaning into our lives. No matter when we die, or no matter if humanity doesn't make it through, that our ability to grieve and be real and be present is what makes life in the meantime worth living and makes it meaningful.
Yeah, thank you. Another one of our steps is about showing up. And I was thinking while in this space with you folks that it's been a really great experiment for me to show up because it's such a new format, and especially the giving back of the listening, the being an active listener and then responding back to what y'all are saying. I was quite uncomfortable with it. And so I feel kind of proud that I was able to show up to a new style of being and relating, and that it's been a pretty cool experience for me. I'm taking a lot in, and I am just so excited that people want to relate with other people in this way, that like this is a thing that happens, you know, that there are many modalities for us trying to relate to people in this time.
I hear you admitting that you felt nervous about showing up in a new setting with a new process, and that by now it sounds like you're feeling also proud that you did show up and that you did give it a shot, and it sounds like you're appreciating what you've gained through it, and it sounds like you're celebrating that there are so many modalities and that there are people who want to show up and who want to get real like this.
Absolutely. And I suppose maybe a last thing is that, you know, we've been talking a lot today about this internal work and external work and the sort of balance, or maybe they both need to happen at the same time. And, you know, I think sometimes the internal work is enough. I think to show up to something like this changes us, and that alchemical change that happens within us will, just by sitting here and witnessing each other, I think that changes enough for us to go into the world and be different. I think that's enough. Thank you.
I hear you kind of declaring the enoughness of doing this internal work, and maybe some trust or some faith that if that's what we prioritize, that it might just cover it.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you. Oh, we're being called back in
Okay.
50.
So we have just minute to say goodbye in this breakout rooms. I want to thank you very much for this talk, and we might slowly come back. If you want to say last few words, please.
Just thank you to both of you for this time.
Thank you both so much. And yeah, I really think that if we, especially in the West, do our inner work, we're just doing less capitalism.
Yeah.
Grow a
Yeah.
garden.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for your sharing. That was for me, I see kind of new things that sharing here brings me strength to go somewhere else. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very important thing.
Põe aqui as sementes, se quiser. Ó Joana, quando fizeres isto, liga isto.
If I unmute myself, I think everybody's back. So we want to go now just around, take a minute or so for everyone to just share sort of, you know, how was the group, you know, any insights, any learnings about regenerative culture that you'd like to share. Maybe people are still popping in. So, and there was a few people I think that came late, so you were in the waiting room, so sorry about that. If you don't come within the first 20 minutes, you end up in this waiting room in sort of like a form of purgatory or something, so just waiting there. I try to message people, but sometimes I can't get to it. So Bill, would you be willing to just go around and select people just to share like 1 minute, just to share any, you're muted.
Got it. Okay. All
And
right.
if you're off camera, somebody just mentioned off camera because of poor connection, that's fine.
Okay. So I'll try to be as thorough as I possibly can here. Sabina, could you give us your feedback?
Oh, and one thing is when you start, say your name, your location, and if you're part of it, any XR group. Because usually we do that at the beginning, but we didn't have time for that. So then continue, yeah.
So, I mean, my name is Sabina. I come from Rome, Italy. And my group is XR Rome International. And it's an English-speaking community. Unfortunately, I didn't do the exercise because I was not in the waiting room. I was inside. So, but I'm very happy to be with all of you. And maybe next time.
Okay. And Jamie.
Oh, myself, sorry. Yeah, I'm Jamie. I'm from Ireland, so I'm in ex-Ireland. I'm also in Global, and yeah, I spent a little bit of time in purgatory with Sabine, but before that I was in yeah. So I suppose I kind of had like issues with like kind of sort of managing preconceptions of what I brought to the circle. And then also I found it hard not to like moderate what I was saying quite a lot. Yeah, so kind of I guess stuff to take away from myself of like managing my expectations, I guess, of yeah, managing my expectations.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm part of the local Calgary XR, as well as having affiliation with the Edmonton XR further north. And I have a regenerative culture life's work called Awakening the Village. And I'm so grateful to have been here today. So often I'm the one who's holding space and empathetically listening to others without really getting a turn. And I just got such a deliciously wonderful experience of being heard and getting to also hear others, and so much emerged from it. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Maury?
Hi, I'm Maury Bean. I'm from Hastings on Hudson, New York, about a 35-minute train ride under normal circumstances to Grand Central Station. And as far as, I guess I'm a member of XR New York, but I think I'm like the Christian that just does Easter and Christmas service. I really haven't participated very much in the activities as such, singing in the choir and certainly not preaching. And but I too am grateful for being here. And I certainly support what XR is doing and really appreciate the mandala that you've put together that does talk about the seasons of life and the seasons of change. And that's been a wonderful guide for me. So thanks very much for all you do, all we
Great.
do.
Oh, thanks for coming, Maury. Appreciate your participation. Andre?
I'm Andre. I am in Johannesburg, South Africa. My XR engagement at the moment is mostly with global support, where I'm in the Regenerative Cultures work group with Karolina, and I also work in a systems development project and a little bit of media and messaging. Our group, our breakaway, it felt like it was actually quite intense in a very subtle way. It feels to me like a lot of what was heard was actually the stuff in the spaces between what was said, which is a rare thing, and feels like a very healthy thing, quite apart from the wonderful value of being able to challenge ourselves in terms of what we actually understand regenerative culture as being. And I think part of what was interesting about our conversations was that we challenged each other a little bit on some of what we were saying. And in that process, we were getting to sense some of what is actually healthy in the cultures and the identities and the realities we live in at the moment, at the same time as wanting to do a bit of a reset and the regenerative culture of trying to find ways of growing into something new and different, something that's healthier and more expansive, in addition to focusing on what needs doing. So there was a lot of that kind of dealing with that tension for us, which was wonderful. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Andre. Laura?
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Schmidt. I am in Western Nebraska in the United States. This is actually my first XR event at all because I live pretty rurally and we don't have anything. The closest XR group would be about 3 hours from here. So I've watched you from afar and admired your work, and I run the Good Grief Network. And so we do a lot of presencing with each other, and we do a 10-step process. This was my first entry into the active listening and repeating back what we heard somebody say, and it was a really powerful and profound experience. We started in our little group with 5 and went down to 3, and so it feels really intimate. I'm really blown away by the process and grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Ben?
Yeah, I'm Ben, and I'm in Gloucestershire in the UK. So this is the 3rd time of doing empathy circles. I'm quite experienced with co-counseling and things like that, but I found this to be a really powerful tool with the reflection back. I haven't experienced that before, and this seems like a really powerful tool. And certainly 2 of the 3 weeks, there's been some conflict in the group, which I would normally try to avoid at all costs. And it's been very interesting and liberating.
Great. Thanks, Ben. April.
Oh, yes. I'm April. I'm in Scotland in the UK. I work with Guardianship and Visioning Circle for XR UK. And this has just been, yes, so rich. I wish that I could have another few hours of conversation. It's just scratched the surface. And of course, how could it not? It's regenerative cultures. There's so much of it. I just love the depth of conversation that we can have. And in this case, some real experiential feeling into things. And that was a real embodied practice of regenerative cultures for me. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Whoops, everything changed. All right, Sinead.
Yeah, thanks. I think I'm not in a wonderfully regenerative place at the moment. Oh, sorry. My name's Sinead. I'm in Ireland. I'm with the Regen Circle in Ireland, and yeah, as well as probably guardianship and maybe a bit of SOS here and there, and a bit of strategy, and a bit of burnout, and yeah, I'm struggling with it, and at the same time, yeah, I'm grateful that this space exists, and this kind of space that it just exists, I guess, gives me some kind of hope. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Katie.
You mean Kathy?
No, sorry, Katie Fessel. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm with XR Tewkesbury in Gloucestershire in the UK. I'm very interested in the regen side of XR. I really enjoyed the conversation. We talked quite a lot about mind-body split in Western culture, and how we start to, when we're in conversations like we were, we start to feel more in our bodies, and the importance of that. And we were actually experiencing regen in a sense that was happening to us while we were dialoguing, and it was fascinating conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Karolina.
I'm sorry. My name is Karolina Kubiak. I'm in Poland, Central Europe, and I am a member of local XR group, also Global Support Regenerative Cultures Working Group with Andre, and also Empathy Circle team. And today, we were talking a lot about the process we are participating in right here, right now, and also about what we want to change in our background, social background, wherever we are. It was kind of talking about inner and outer work we want to do. And what I'm taking with me from this talk is probably that we are creating space that strengthen us to do something in other places. That's what Empathy Circle is, kind of help us to be more strong and doing things in other places. That's my feeling. And it's about regenerative culture.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karolina. Kathy Wallace, Alberta. There we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm from the evil tar sands and belong to the Edmonton group for Extinction Rebellion. So we had a sweet dialogue, and for me, it achieved the goal in dialogue. I've spent 44 years facilitating community circles, so it felt like a really safe space where we really shared honestly, and I felt everyone feeling into and moving into wholeness and completion through the sharing. And we collectively moved and evolved through each other into a new place of wholeness. And it had everything to do with experiential feeling, connecting with the heart and speaking to what the heart had to say. I'm just very grateful to everyone in the circle.
Great, thank you. Marguerite.
Yeah, I felt it was quite complex, some of the things we discussed. Yes, and I thought I made a mistake this time. I thought I tried to write notes, and I felt it was better previously when I just tried to keep it in my memory. So I think next time I won't write notes. I'll try, even if you don't reflect back everything. Somehow the notes, I felt, kept me distant from what the person was saying. I was writing rather than listening. But I think these empathy circles are great. So thank you.
Thank you, Marguerite. All right, Michael?
My name is Michael Schmidt.
Oh, Michelle, sorry.
Michael is fine. But actually my name is Michael. I live in Frankfurt, Germany. I'm in regenerative culture nationwide in Germany, and the pandemic gave me the chance to open my connection to the global XR world. What came with me is this word reflecting and what it does by this wisdom of the circle, of this close connection we had, to understand what is regenerative, what is generative, like in a way that I've never thought about it before, which might be obvious, and at the same time it comes from this whole wisdom of everyone and the different perspectives of the people. And that's what I love about sharing, that we have so much more wisdom when we come together. Thank you.
No, thank you. Anne.
Yeah, that was quite a remarkable experience, really. We had a group of 5, and unfortunately we lost someone, probably tech issues, but it was a great sharing, and it wasn't long enough. It would just, I want to do more of these on the regen. It seems so rich and so core to what we're doing that I think we should intersperse all of the principles with an extra regen, personally.
Great, thank you, Anne. Okay, Rebecca. You there, Rebecca? You're muted? Oh, okay. All right, moving on. I see D, just the lowercase d. Are you still with us?
Yeah, yes.
Oh,
Can you
good.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm in Portugal. Yeah, I'm Diana. I've been in a few circles before. I'm not directly into any XR movement, although I feel quite connected. I'm very attentive to what XR is doing, and I have personal connections with XR, but I'm in so many things that it's just one of me. Yeah, this was a very deep and rich conversation. I feel quite grateful. It brought me into linking different things that I usually don't link together, and that was quite rewarding and interesting. And I really appreciate my colleagues of the small group. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Diana. Alexandra.
Hello, I'm speaking from Lisbon, Portugal. It's my second time in these groups. I'm working in Extinction, Rebellion, Regenerative groups in Lisbon. Now we are very, things are very, we're not working almost because of this situation. And it was really great to engage today with some fantastic people. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
No, great to have you, Alexandra. Welcome. Okay, and I believe Sabina, you did have I think my screen has kind of shifted several times. So Sabina, I believe you did have a chance to reflect. Okay, great. And I'll
Can
just
we try
throw.
with Rebecca?
Yeah, I was going to try Rebecca one more time, Rebecca, in case she had to go. Can you hear us, Rebecca?
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, and my video is not on either. There we go, that's better. I felt it was a really interesting, intellectually interesting, but also tiring experience. I was also quite concerned that we had somebody in our group who didn't, was new to the, I mean, it's the first time I've been to this, been into an empathy circle, but was quite new to XR. And I was really appreciative of the way the facilitator invited her into the space, but did it in a really gentle way, so that she didn't feel like she had to contribute if she or to speak if she didn't want to. Sorry. It was really, I feel like we also have an issue perhaps with an XR, that we are effectively othering by the language that we use, and even the word othering isn't really recognized in lots of circles. So we might need to be conscious of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay. Well, my reflection is that I'm really appreciative of everybody putting the energy in. I love meeting new people. I'm constantly, encouraged and to be creative. And I find that as I do this more and more, my own defense, my own old defense mechanisms tend to just kind of fall away, and I'm come to a much better place. So I want to express my appreciation to all of you for helping me in my process. And then I'll turn it back to you, Edwin.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, so I'm from the XR Empathy Circle work group, and I invite, if you're not part of that, I invite you to join. There's probably links in the event page somewhere, as well as I'm in XR San Francisco, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. In our group, I felt that we talked about felt experience. Someone brought up, sort of connecting into felt experience, which I thought really helped sort of ground our discussion. Made it sort of go deeper into the body, and appreciated that. I felt we probably needed another hour or two, because we're just, April, Ben, I just really felt like we were kind of starting to get into something deeper. So it really needed that. Maybe we'll do a marathon sometime, like a 8-hour empathy circle marathon. I think that'd be a fun kind of a project after this one is over. I talked about mutual empathy as being core to regeneration. So I think if you experience being listened to, it sort of unfolds. We sort of regenerate our energy when we're heard by others. So for me, that was a kind of a core part that I wanted to get across. So for the next steps, We're meeting again next week. We'll be looking at principle number 3. Next week, that's no, 4. Thank you. I see that shaking of the head. Yeah, Andre. Principle number 4. And then next Friday, we have an empathy circle at the same time on mutual support around the COVID-19, pandemic. And then after that, we have a facilitators, empathy circle facilitator support group that many people here are part of. You can join that if you're wanting to facilitate, because now that you've done, 1 or 2 circles, you can, with this, you have some instructions, there on the website on how to facilitate it. You're able to facilitate simple ones without too much, conflict in them. But this process is really a lifelong journey, to really learn how to deepen that empathic way of being. It get better and better. I'm still learning, and ask my partner about that. And so next steps, invite friends. If you're part of an XR group, maybe have them post this event to their Facebook page, post to your Facebook. You can go in and invite friends, and I hope you'll kind of help, spread the word and kind of spread this practice throughout XR. So with that, thank you for hanging in there for the extra half an hour. So really, thanks for that dedication. I want to thank you all and look forward to seeing you next week too. So thanks.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Edwin.
Goodbye. Thank you.